Welcome back to the Scottish and UK Polluter Awards. From this point on, the awards relate to the UK as a whole. We partner with our friends at UKYCC, FOE Scotland, 350org, Biofuel Watch, MedAct and Culture Unsustained to bring you the following awards. The Net Zero Credibility Award acknowledges the entrepreneurs who claim we don't need to keep the fossil fuels in the ground. Rather, we can continue to grow our economies and use tricks of accounting to make our mission seem smaller. And now, announcing the nominees.
Hello, everyone. It looks like I have turned up as the ghost of net zero. I am just now about as real as a net zero promise. Okay, so we've got 6 nominees in this category, a very hotly contested category. First up, our first nominee is Equinor, the Norwegian oil giant who are hoping to use nature-based solutions to achieve net zero by 2050. All the while planning to increase oil and gas output by 3% per year until 2026. Equinor have achieved a rebrand of historic proportions, with major publications like Bloomberg posting about how Equinor are turning from an oil and gas company to a major player in the renewables revolution. The one problem with this is that oil and gas production by Equinor continues at their previous levels, and renewable energy sold by Equinor makes up as little as 0.5% of their overall portfolio. The next nominee is HSBC. So, out of the vault and into the running, HSBC have signed up to net zero, whilst also being the second biggest funder of fossil fuel projects in Europe since the Paris Agreement. The UK's biggest investment bank, HSBC, has been the bank of choice, to give a few examples, for Quadrilla, and lent £63 million to Dart Energy. But don't worry there, folks, we have more. HSBC are also a faithful partner to state violence, all the way back to the bank's founding during the Opium Wars, where British merchants forced their opium on China, resulting in devastation. And HSBC continue their misadventures in colonialism today, funding Israel's apartheid in Palestine and the UK's detention estate. All right, next up, they're back, it's BP. So BP have announced an ambition to reduce their oil and gas production by 40% for 2030. However, they have no plans to reduce their oil and gas that is owned by Russian state oil firm Rosneft, which amounts to about 27% of the reserves. Sneaky, sneaky. BP caught the greenwashing bug 20 years ago in their Beyond Petroleum rebrand, which is behind the green star in their logo. They are also clinging onto carbon capture technologies to offset their plans to be extracting and selling oil and gas right up to 2050. Beyond Petroleum, what a farce. Okay, our fourth nominee. They're back as well. It's Barclays. Barclays are committed to fracking with a 97% share in a fracking firm, Third Energy. Barclays made a pledge to aim for net zero by 2050, while in the same year they took on £200 million more investments in fossil fuel projects, increasing their holdings from the previous year. Talk about a power move. We have another returning nominee next. We have Drax. No one knows how to burn a fuel source quite at high temperature like Drax. They've done coal, they've done gas, and now they're focusing quite heavily on wood. These climate alchemists have made tree burning renewable. How about that? Drax plans for its Yorkshire-based power station to become the world's first carbon-negative power station by 2030. I mean, no one knows how they'll do this, as their own bioenergy with carbon capture and storage experiments at their power station have been completely unsuccessful. And our final nominee is Heathrow Airport. Heathrow Airport plans to run the world's first net zero airport. How about that? But obviously that doesn't include the reason it's there in the first place, the planes. Contrary to local opinion and the advice of climate experts, Heathrow is pushing ahead with a third runway, showing their commitment to destruction for profit. So while the High Court ruled the third runway illegal, this was actually overturned by the Supreme Court, meaning Heathrow is one step closer to becoming an even more toxic polluter in the near future. And now back to our host to announce the award.
Incredible amounts of bullshitting going on there. It's really just quite astounding. So the winner is Drax, and we're going to hand it over to our pals at Biofuel Watch to accept this award.
Ladies and gentlemen, government and industry, we have great pleasure, or rather no pleasure at all, in awarding the Polluter of the Year awards on behalf of Glasgow Calls Out Polluters. We're here today outside the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy to present 2 awards. So let's start with the Zero Credibility Award, or rather to give it its full title, the Net Zero Credibility Award. There was stiff competition from the winner from Heathrow Airport, HSBC, BP, Barclays and Equinor. And these are some of the world's biggest polluters, all jumping on the net zero bandwagon, whilst still, of course, cashing in on burning fossil fuels. But our winner goes further than all of them, claiming it will become carbon negative and suck that carbon right out of the air. Yes, you've probably guessed it. Our winner is Drax Power Station in Yorkshire, England. The biggest emitter of carbon in the UK and the biggest burner of trees on the planet, for which it gets more than £2 million a day subsidies from Bays behind us. Please welcome one of Drax's cooling towers to accept the award. Now, Drax isn't just claiming to be net zero. It is claiming it can become a carbon negative power station by 2030. Amazing. Given that it emits 13 million tonnes of carbon dioxide on average from burning trees every year, how is it going to work this magic? Well, according to Drax, it can use bioenergy with carbon capture and storage technology to capture the CO2 from burning its trees, and since that was carbon neutral already, it amounts to taking carbon out of the atmosphere. Magic, isn't it? It's also sophistry and dangerous rubbish, by the way. But what they don't say is that their world-beating ambition to be carbon negative is based on unproven BECCS technology. As yet, Drax's pilot project to capture 1 tonne of carbon dioxide every day, which they plan to use to keep the fizz in beer, has proved completely unsuccessful. So all its 13 million tonnes of CO2 continue pouring into the atmosphere. But since the government is intent on giving carbon capture, usage and storage £1 billion, Drax is looking forward to claiming large subsidies for doing nothing. But even if BECCS did work in the future, Drax fails to mention that it would lead to the destruction of more forests and the conversion of large areas to monoculture tree plantations to supply the wood to burn in the power stations, which would severely affect biodiversity and food security. So, let's give Drax a huge boo for being world-beating bullshitters about the carbon impact of biomass and the promise of BECCS. Here, have a small wooden spoon.